there BookTube, it's Janet, and today I've got a video about books, and this is going to be part one because I've got quite a few books about books. And obviously if you're watching this video and you're a member of the BookTube community, you understand what I mean when I say about how much we love books and how we're always interested in discovering new books and different reads and great recommendations. And so with that as well, I've actually accumulated quite a lot of books about books. So I will dive in. The first one is probably the most obvious one, and this is the 1001 books you must read before you die. And this is massive, and this goes from pretty much where literature began onwards. It's got features on each decade in time, so it moves forward with the books that came out in that particular decade. And it's great just to flick through. Sometimes I have a flick through and I'll do a little tick alongside to see which ones I've actually read. So that's a page for Breakfast at Tiffany's, which I have actually read, which is brilliant. So it's sort of good just to sort of see what has been regarded as a book of note over all the years that sort of literature has been around. It does come out every so often as an updated version. I recently had a flick through one of the updated versions, but not a lot had changed, so this is quite an older edition. Because obviously historically things, you know, aren't going to change that much unless they discover something wonderful. So yeah, it's a big stonk of a book, but it's just fabulous to have a little browse through as well, and just to sort of see, you know, if you're particularly interested in classics and things like that, and books that have made a great impact in the time that they were written. So yeah, so that's the obvious big stonking book. Have to put it down, it's really heavy. The next one I've got to show you is the literature book, and this is part of a series. There's loads of different books in the series. I don't know if you can see there on the back, I think it's a Dorling Kindersley. There's books on politics and history, and this sort of just goes through time by time really, the great sort of ideas and the great movements in literature that have sort of happened. It's really colourful. It's really succinct. It's great to dip in and out of. It sort of shows the evolution of literature and writing and reading and authors, and so it's an absolutely fabulous snapshot. There's Mary Shelley there, of how literature has developed over time and the great movements in literature. So the next book I've got to show you is How to Be Well Read, and this is a guide to 500 great novels and a handful of literary curiosities, and this is by John Sutherland. And John Sutherland has written quite a few books on books. I think he's an academic who studies literature. It just goes through page by page different books, and it gives you a synopsis of the books that he sort of regards as worth reading. I think this page it focuses on IQ 84 by Haruki Murakami. There's some surprising things in here. There are some books that you wouldn't have thought would have been included that a literary sort of academic would regard, but as a good read. But it's good. It's a different way of looking at some of the books that are out there. It can have some highbrow titles in there, but also very familiar books that you and me would read as an everyday choice. So there's that one. The next one I've got to show you is called Shakespeare on Toast, and this is by Ben Crystal, and this is a little snapshot, a light-hearted look at Shakespeare, and it's a way of making Shakespeare and reading Shakespeare accessible. It's just a little sort of pint-size guide to getting into the way it's written, what it all means, and to sort of take away some of the fear of starting to read Shakespeare. So that's that one. If you wanted to read Shakespeare and you weren't sure where to start and how to go about it, that is a book that I recommend. The next one I've got to show you is called So Many Books, So Little Time, and we all know that one, don't we? And this is A Year of Passionate Reading by Sarah Nelson, and this is an American author who basically took a year out to read the books that she had on her shelves at home and rediscover them, rereading things and going over things that she found. And it's sort of It's quite a heartwarming read. It's like the way she discovers some of her old friends and what they meant to her and how they influenced her, and how the choices that she made in the books that she bought, did she choose them or did the books choose her? So there's that one. It's got a lovely cover on it as well. And the next one I've got is a similar book, and this is The Year of Reading Dangerously by Andy Miller, and this came out a couple of years ago, and this is a really good read. This is Andy Miller going back to read all the books that maybe he felt he ought to have read, so things like Moby Dick, Jane Austen. So I'll just read you the blurb on the back because that will probably explain it better. And it says, how many books have you always wanted to read, felt you should read, pretended you have actually read? Andy Miller had a job he quite liked and a family he loved, but something was missing: books. So he began a year of reading that was gradually to transform his life. From Moby Dick to the Da Vinci Code, from Jane Austen to Douglas Adams, Andy Miller explores how and what we read and why we should make time to do so. Inspiring, deeply personal and laugh out loud funny, The Year of Reading Dangerously is a reader's odyssey, and it begins with opening this book. Now, I know none of us who are watching this video are booktube or book lovers need to be persuaded to read, but it is actually a really interesting take on how the author his mind gets opened by picking up the books and the books that he read and the things that he discovered between the pages, and how enlightened he felt and how much he fell in love with reading. So that's a really good book. And then the final one I've got to show you in this next segment is Read This Next, and it's by Sandra Newman and Howard Mittlemark. So it's kind of things like if you've read something that you've enjoyed, what also would you like? And it just lists books in different categories. It actually has discussion points on books as well, so it's good if you've got a book group that you want to pick some titles from, and it actually gives you some questions and discussion themes around certain books that you could talk about. So it's arranged into different themes as well. So there's like a section on love, memoir, family, history, politics, humour, work and money, war, religion, death. And so there are all sorts of different things in there. And so if you're looking for a bit of inspiration, something you want a particular read on, this gives you a guideline and list of books and quick synopsis of certain books to read as well. So that's the end of part one of my little snippet on the books I own, books about books. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you think of them, if you've got any more recommendations. Let's chat in the comments down below. I will see you all soon. Keep reading. Bye!